Have you ever felt it? A subtle but profound sense of unease in the presence of a particular kind of person. On the surface, they may be the very picture of perfection. They are virtuous, they are righteous, they are often charismatic and deeply admired. They are the pillar of their community, the moral crusader, the person who seems to have conquered all of the messy, chaotic, and undesirable parts of their own human nature. They are a living, breathing testament to the power of goodness, of purity, of the light. They are, in a word, a saint. And yet you feel a strange and inexplicable chill in their presence. Their goodness does not feel warm and inviting, but cold, hard, and brittle. Their righteousness does not feel compassionate, but cruel and unforgiving. You feel on a deep and instinctual level that you are not in the presence of a whole and integrated human being, but of a beautifully crafted and terrifyingly fragile mask. You sense with a primal and unsettling certainty that behind this shining facade of pure light lies a darkness that is equally pure, equally absolute, and 1,000 times more dangerous. If you have felt this, you have come face to face with what the great Swiss psychologist Carl Jung would consider to be the single most dangerous sign in a human being. It is not their anger, not their greed, not their lust. It is not their darkness. It is, in a profound and terrifying paradox, their light. It is their conscious and militant identification with the forces of good, their desperate and ultimately futile attempt to be a person of pure and unadulterated virtue. The brutal and uncomfortable truth that lies at the very heart of Jung, his psychology, is that the most dangerous person in the world is not the one who is in touch with their own darkness. It is the one who has convinced themselves that they have none, for this is the person who has, unconsciously, handed the keys to their soul over to the very monster they have tried so desperately to deny. And a monster that is unknown, that is unowned, that operates from the complete and total darkness of the unconscious, is a monster that is capable of a truly and terrifyingly unlimited evil. The primal sin, the violent and unnatural act of self-amputation. To understand this terrifying paradox, you must first understand Carl Jung's revolutionary and deeply challenging model of the human psyche. For Jung, the soul is not a simple, unitary thing. It is a dynamic and often warring collection of opposites. It is light and it is dark. It is masculine and it is feminine. It is rational and it is irrational. It is conscious and it is unconscious. The natural, healthy, and whole human being is not the one who has eliminated one side of these opposites, but the one who has learned to hold the tension between them, to create a space in which they can enter into a dynamic and life-giving dance. The great and tragic error of our Western Christian-influenced civilization, as Jung saw it, is that we have declared a total and unrelenting war on this wholeness. We have committed a profound and violent act of psychic amputation. We have split the world and ourselves into a false and unsustainable binary of good and evil. We have been taught from our earliest moments that the goal of a good life is to identify with the light, with kindness, with purity, with selflessness, and to repress, to deny, and to ultimately conquer the darkness within us. This is the birth of what Jung called the shadow. The shadow is the living, breathing repository of every part of ourselves that we have deemed unacceptable, inferior, or evil, and have therefore banished into the dark, silent, and forgotten basement of our psyche. It is our rage, our envy, our greed, our lust, our profound weakness, our raw and untamed power. It is everything that does not fit into the neat, clean, and respectable little box of our conscious identity, our persona. The ordinary neurotic person is in a state of constant, low-grade conflict with their shadow. But the person who is truly dangerous, the person Jung would have us be most wary of, is the one who has taken this war to its absolute extreme. This is the person who has, through a heroic and ultimately catastrophic act of willpower, achieved an almost complete and total identification with the persona of the good self. They have, in a very real sense, convinced themselves that they are the light. They have locked the basement door, they have thrown away the key, and they have built a beautiful, shining and utterly false cathedral on top of it. This is not an act of spiritual attainment. It is the original and most devastating of all human sins, the sin of self-rejection. The devil's bargain, the inevitable and terrible return of the repressed. The psyche, however, has a way of seeking wholeness. It is a self-regulating system that will not tolerate a state of profound imbalance forever. The shadow, as Jung taught, cannot be destroyed, it can only be repressed. And the more you repress it, the more you starve it of the light of your own conscious awareness, the more powerful, the more demonic, and the more autonomous it becomes. The person who has convinced themselves that they are pure light has, in a terrible and tragic irony, created a shadow of pure and absolute darkness. Their unconscious is not a place of minor flaws and human foibles. It is a seething cauldron of all the rage, all the judgment, all the envy, and all the lust that they have refused to own. They are a kingdom that has achieved a perfect and peaceful order in its brightly lit capital city, but which is surrounded by a vast, dark, and untamed jungle that is teeming with ravenous and starving beasts, and these beasts will not stay in the jungle forever. The energy that has been repressed must, by an inexorable law of the psyche, find a way out, and it does so in two devastating and characteristic ways. The first, and most common, is the game of projection. Because the good person cannot bear to see the darkness within themselves, they must find it in the world. They become a master at creating a devil out there to save them from having to face the devil in here. The person they irrationally hate, the political party they despise with a religious fervor, the group of people they have decided are the source of all of the world's problems. These are almost always screens upon which they are projecting their own disowned and ravenous shadow. This is the great and terrifying secret of the moral crusader, the zealot, the fanatic. Their righteousness is not a sign of their goodness, it is a direct and terrifying measure of their own unlived sin. The more they scream about the evil of the other, the more they are, in fact, telling you about the terrifying and powerful evil that they have refused to confront within their own soul. They are not fighting a war against evil, they are fighting a desperate proxy war with themselves, and they are using the world and the bodies of other human beings as their battlefield. This is the person who is capable of committing the greatest and most terrible of atrocities, all in the name of a good that is, in fact, a complete and total illusion. As Jung famously warned, it is a frightening thought that man also has a shadow side to him, consisting not just of little weaknesses and foibles, but of a positively demonic dynamism. The individual who is not conscious of his shadow acts as a carrier for the collective shadow and is then identical with it. The second way the shadow erupts is in the sudden, inexplicable and often catastrophic implosion of the good person's own life. This is the secret psychology of the fallen preacher, the disgraced politician, the moral crusader who is caught in a scandalous hypocrisy. These people are not, for the most part, conscious hypocrites. They are, in their own minds, true believers. But their one-sided devotion to the light has created a shadow of such immense and ravenous darkness that it can no longer be contained. It erupts, it takes possession of the personality, and it acts out the very desires and impulses that the conscious mind has so violently and for so long repressed. The result is a life that is a smoking ruin, a testament to the terrible and inexorable truth that what we resist not only persists but grows in power and in darkness. The signs of the saint. How to spot the most dangerous person in the room. How then do we recognize this person? How do we stay alert to the danger of the one who is possessed by their own unlived darkness? The signs are not in their overt actions, which are often a model of perfect and unimpeachable virtue. The signs are in the subtle psychological atmosphere that they create around them. The first sign is a profound and terrifying lack of humor, especially about themselves. The person who is truly in touch with their own shadow, who has a conscious and loving relationship with their own inner monster, has a sense of humor. They can laugh at their own flaws, at their own contradictions, at their own capacity for foolishness. Their goodness is a warm, human, and deeply compassionate thing. The person who is identified with the light has no humor. Their goodness is a grim, serious, and deadly business. They cannot be joked with, they cannot be teased. Any attempt to introduce a note of levity or of human imperfection into their presence is met with a cold, hard, and unforgiving stare. This is the stare of a person who is engaged in a life or death battle for their own psychic survival and who has absolutely no time for your foolish games. The second sign is a profound and unrelenting judgmentalism. The person who is at peace with their own darkness is, by necessity, a person who is at peace with the darkness of others. They are compassionate, they are forgiving, they are slow to condemn. The person who is at war with their own shadow is, by necessity, at war with the world. They are a ruthless and unforgiving judge. They see the world in a stark, black and white binary. They are constantly engaged in the process of sorting the world into the pure and the impure, the good and the bad, the saints and the sinners. Their conversations are filled with a kind of righteous and often gleeful condemnation of others. This is not a sign of their high moral standards. It is a sign of their desperate and constant need to project their own disowned sin onto the world. The third and most subtle sign is a strange and unnerving lack of humanity. The truly good person, the person who has integrated their own darkness, is a person who feels profoundly and deeply human. They are messy, they are paradoxical, they are flawed, and they are beautiful. You feel, in their presence, a sense of your own humanity being seen and being accepted. The person who is possessed by the ideal of goodness feels, in a strange and subtle way, not quite human. They are a statue, a perfect, polished, and utterly lifeless statue. There is no warmth, no spontaneity, no real, vulnerable, and messy life in them. You feel, in their presence, that you are being judged, that you are being measured against their impossible standard of perfection, and that you are, of course, being found wanting. To be in their presence is not to feel inspired. It is to feel, in a deep and profound way, ashamed of your own beautiful and imperfect humanity. The path of the whole human. The courage to embrace the darkness. If this is the diagnosis, what is the cure? How do we avoid becoming this most dangerous of all human beings? And how do we protect ourselves from them? The path, as laid out by Carl Jung, is one of the most radical and courageous a human being can take. It is the path of ending the war. It is the path of integration. It is the journey of turning from the external battle of trying to be good and embarking on the internal journey of becoming whole. This journey begins with a profound and difficult act of humility. You must be willing to admit that you are not the master of your own house. You must be willing to acknowledge that the monster you fear and despise in the world is not an external enemy, but an essential and wounded part of your own being. You must, in essence, lay down your arms. You must stop trying to defeat the shadow and, instead, begin the terrifying work of trying to understand it. This is the work of making the darkness conscious. It is the art of learning to listen to the language of your own symptoms, of your own bad thoughts, of your own ugliest projections. You must have the courage to ask, what is the truth that this darkness is trying to show me? What is the part of my own wholeness that I have abandoned and that is now crying out from the prison of my own unconscious? This is a journey that requires immense courage, for it means walking willingly into the very parts of yourself that you are most terrified of. It is the work of feeling the feelings you have spent a lifetime avoiding. But as you do this, a miraculous transformation begins to occur. The shadow, when it is met with the light of a compassionate and non-judgmental consciousness, begins to change. The monster, when you turn to face it, begins to reveal its true face, and you will discover, with a sense of profound and shattering awe, that the face of your darkest demon is the face of a lost and wounded God. The gold is in the dark. What is the result of this sacred and difficult work? It is not that you become a perfect person, a person without a dark side. It is that you become a whole person. It is the birth of a new center of gravity within the psyche, what Jung called the self.